Good afternoon and welcome to today's Webinar Wednesday. Today's entry into the Webinar Wednesday series that really picked up after the pandemic. It kicked in about a year ago, and we are just cruising with this series. It just keeps going on. My name is James Reynolds. I'm the Director of Marketing Strategy with the Library Corporation, and with me today is Faith Gillum, who's the Product Manager in charge of LS2 Reports and really the analytics portion of TLC. Today's session is going to be titled The Power of Analytics and LS2 Reports. I will say the framing and a lot of the content that she is going to be showing today is going to be framed around our library.solution platform. But I do believe she's going to speak to that or may speak to that at some point throughout the webinar. Our analytics, and actually, you know what, Faith, I'm not going to go any further because I'm afraid I'm going to steal some of your thunder, and that is definitely not what I would like to do here. So I will say this webinar is about a half hour in time. We try to keep it at that pace. Faith will present, and then there'll be a chance for some questions at the end of this, and there will be some polling, I believe, at the end of this too. So we will get that on the back end. And really, Faith, without further ado, take it away.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm Faith Gillum. Like said before, I'm the LS2 Reports Product Manager, and I've been working inside reports for TLC for about 10 years now. What I'm going to be doing first is I'm going to basically talk about how to use reports inside LS2 reports to kind of get further insight on like your borrowers, your items and titles, and like the activity trends that are occurring at your library, and showcasing those reports as well. But first, I'm just going to go over kind of an overview of LS2 Reports itself. So LS2 Reports is the reporting module of library.solution. It is powered by IBM Cognos Analytics version 11, which is a web-based application, which means that you can access your reports whether from home or from work or from a tablet. It really depends on your security settings at your installation. With the install of LS2 reports, you get over 250 reports, as well as custom reporting that you may get through TLC. These reports can be run at a variety of formats, including Excel, PDF, CSV, or they can be embedded in a website through a hyperlink or XML. These reports, time is money kind of thing. If you don't have time for a report to be, to wait for it to return, you can reschedule your scheduled reports to be run at your convenience, whether it's sent through an email as an attachment or a link inside the module, or save as a copy. So next time you log into LS2 reports, that report is available for you. Report offering can also be done within LS2 reports at an additional license. And from there, you can create your own reports or you can customize existing reports. So the first area that I'm going to talk about is who are my borrowers, whether if like you're looking to engage new borrowers or you're looking to maybe, get some of the people coming back into your library. But we can also do not just, newly registered borrowers or existing borrowers, but we can look in finer grain detail based on elements inside the borrower account or the setup of borrower fields within LS2 preferences. I won't be getting into how to set up custom borrower fields inside LS2 preferences. However, if you are a current library.solution customer, you can go to the LS community site or the online training campus, and you can look at documentation on creation for that. Some of the things that we can pull for reports can be based off of the age group, the card type, or gender information, but there could be other things customized to you that we can do through borrower fields, like if they're belonging to a particular group, like if they're part of the board member or a particular ethnicity, or if they speak a secondary language that you want to, grow your collection for. I'm going to be showcasing 3 reports for today, and inside LS2 Reports. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to log in as my reports user. And the first thing is, this is just the interface. Right here is just all the custom the reports that I've run recently. But the majority of these reports, that if you are a current library.solution customer, are going to be pulled from the borrower's team content borrowers directory. And here we have it divided in subcategories based on what the type of report it is. So the first report that I'm going to be showcasing is the OBR and in-person registered borrower statistics for location. This is going to be a new report that isn't actually out yet. It's going to be out in release 5.7 of library.solution. But this report, what it does is it's going to give you insight on, newly registered borrowers, and you can choose to select for your entire system, or you can pick a particular location depending on what you need. This report can be scheduled, but for right now, since this is a test database, I'm going to be selecting a date range. And then you can also target based off of what's online registered borrowers versus in person. I'm going to select all. So I'm just going to go back kind of far here because we don't, to get kind of a small data set. Here, so I'm going to go to 2016 to 2018. And then here we have the options if you do have the custom borrower field set up, where you can choose these various fields. For right now, I'm not going to select that because they are an optional field. So the first part here is we're going to get a snapshot over across the library of what, who's being added to what location. So from here, from the pie chart, we can see, okay, well, Cleveland has a fair number of newly registered borrowers. We might want to look into what they're doing differently than, let's say, a smaller location like Pierce. But we can also, from the table here, we can get an insight as to how they are being added to the library. If they're going to be an online registered borrower here, so 6, or these other borrower types, which don't have a description in the test database, but here of 20 some borrowers that were registered in person. The next part of this report that you can get kind of an idea of is what's the gender makeup of the borrowers that were newly assigned, newly registered at your library. As you can see here, we have a fair number of them that aren't specified, but we can also see another spike here of male borrowers signing up at Inwood Public Library. And we might want to pull out some display items that might be good, targeted for that particular demographic, or we might want to do some programs that are, related to male borrowers. Oh, sorry. The next part of this report would be your newly registered borrowers by total checkouts on the account. So we have people coming into the library, but are they actually using their cards? Well, this report can kind of give you that where those, of your newly registered borrowers, where they fall. In this case, because it's a test database, we have most of our borrowers don't actually check any items out. However, you do see that there are some people here across, with the top being 33 checkouts. And then lastly, again, across your newly registered borrowers, we can see here what the age grouping of those borrowers are. So again, if we can want to target those specific groups. So in this case, we have the majority of them being in their 40s, middle age range. So that'd be something we want to keep in mind. Or we could look at people, age groups that aren't represented here. So like our teenagers, maybe we want to kind of really push to get more youth into our library. And that's basically this first report. Next, I'm going to be going to be showcasing the system count of borrowers by location, borrower types, and gender. And so this is going to be a simpler report. It's just going to be a table, and it's going to run as soon as you click on it. But it's going to give you the breakout again of like the borrower type, how many are male and female or not specified, with totals. And then finally, in regards to existing borrowers, we also kind of want to get an idea of, okay, we have a certain number of borrowers, but how many of them are actually, non-expired cards? And this is a good report that does that. So again, I'm just going to select all across my location here of all borrower types. And this report is allowed to be scheduled as well, but I'm just going to run it for all the borrowers in my system. And then from here, I can be like, okay, for my Cleveland location, I have 11 total borrowers, which is really small, but 10 of them are expired. So obviously there's something wrong here of like, if they have cards, but they're not currently using them, they're not renewing them. And maybe we need to like look into that. And so that's going to be moving into now into what are item and title reports. So what makes up your location? Some of the things that we have for reporting in regards to items and titles are trying to get an idea of what makeup of e-resources versus physical items make up your collection. The number of aged items. So if something's been published, 15, 20 years ago versus newly published materials. And then things that are set up based off of your holdings codes or your statistical groups created in LS2 preferences. So things like adult materials and children versus young adult, or like the material type of print materials versus audio and visual, or even collection of things like kits for a maker lab that you can put inside a holdings code or in various holdings codes to be represented as a statistical group. I'll be going over 4 reports for items. So I'm going to go back to my LS2 reports. I'm just going to go back to my home page here. So the majority of item reports are going to be under team content, and then it's going to be under items and titles. So the first one's going to be physical and e-resource collection counts for location. And I'm going to run it across my entire location here. And so what this report does is it kind of gives you a snapshot of everything in your system and what the makeup of those collections are. So we can kind of see across the board, maybe areas that we want to develop e-resources, or to get an idea of comparing statistical, activity statistics between 2 branches. So like we have here, like our Truman location or Washington, they both are primarily physical item libraries. So it might be interesting to compare metrics between these 2 locations versus something like Jefferson that has a lot more e-resources, and see if there's higher engagement or higher, borrower registrations at these locations. The next report that I'm going to be showcasing would be talking about how old or aged your materials are at the library. So it's called the collection counts by 5-year range in classification. And sorry. And so this report is going to mainly be focusing on your nonfiction location or nonfiction collections, but you can select non-standard as well. But as you know, there are certain areas where, older items are not going to be used as much as, newer materials. Oops, sorry. So like things like computer science materials, like obviously if you have a book still on the shelf, about Windows 98, it's probably not going to see a lot of checkouts. So this report kind of goes, along in that vein of, looking at your various, minor classification or major classifications to see if we can freshen up our collection. Another really popular report that provides a lot of insight in terms of, the checkout and circulations of your collections would be the activity and relative use by holdings code report. In this report, what it'll do is it will provide a bunch of different like detailed analysis on things that happen in your library. And so I'm just going to go kind of far back. But ideally for this report, you want to use more recent date ranges. So once this report runs, we'll get here just kind of like summary information on the top here of the number of items that are at your location, how many total circulations happen, how many in-house use. So if a person pulls it off the shelf, reads it in the library, and then puts it back or leaves it out on the table, you can track those with in-house use with the total of those two data measurements. And then seeing how much of your items are circulating at your location versus other location through loans. And then from here, you have like various metrics here of like, again, the total use and turnover, the relative use with suggestions of how to grow or shrink your your collection so you could get the most use out of your shelving space, but also out of the materials themselves. And then finally, for this section, I'm going to be showing you the activity, age, and turnover collection by minor classification. And again, this is kind of like the previous report, except it's going to be focusing more on your call number classifications. So I'm just gonna, again, go back here because it's a test database, but so here you can get an idea, again, how many items are in there, how many checkouts you had in the date period, in-house use renewals with the totals, the average publication year, ignoring anything that does not have valid dates, and then the turnover rate here. And then finally, obviously, your items and your borrowers don't exist in their own, they interact with each other. So if you want to get an idea of, who's checking out what and or specifically, a particular borrower type that you want to grow, what kind of reports that you can run and getting those two fields together. And so I have 3 reports that I wanted to showcase in regards to that. They include the checkout or circulation counts by borrower types and holdings code, popular, basically authors by checkout counts, which is your popular authors, and then the titles by highest circulation counts in the holdings codes to display popular titles. So we're going to get back into LS2 reports and run that first one. The checkout or circulation counts by borrower types and holdings codes when we run that. Again, you can choose all your locations or not. You can have the option of ignoring renewals if you want. I'm gonna include them. We're gonna run our data here. And so this is a little messy, but what it's basically doing here is it's showing all the holdings codes that, you know, have circulation for this particular borrower type. So if we want to really engage our adult borrowers, we can be like, okay, well, obviously, you know, DVDs are pretty popular, but let's say we want to focus on books. So fiction is the next popular one, but we can also, or I should say nonfiction, but we can also see here that we could see, you know, if this is my holdings code for nonfiction, if there was another number here that was higher than my 19 circulation count, we could see that, you know, maybe there's a lot of loans coming from another person's or another branch's collection. We can get insight as to maybe we want to look to see why we're loaning, why we're borrowing so many items from that particular location. Maybe there's something that we're lacking in our own collection that we can grow that this other location has. The next one is the authors by checkout counts. We're just going to select all. And we're just going to do for adult. And so this report will just give you popular titles. You do have the option here to display the individual items. But in this case, because I'm going to be showing you another report that does the same thing, I'm just going to limit to basic authors. And so from here, it's organized by alphabetically. But from here, if you were to export it out into Excel, if you want to reorganize it based on checkouts, you could kind of get an idea of what popular authors, so that maybe you can make purchasing decisions of seeing what new releases that are going to be coming out, so you can put them out put them out for holds or make orders for them to make it available for your borrowers. And then finally, the titles by highest checkout or circulation counts and holdings codes. This is a similar thing where, again, you can pick your location and you can either focus on a particular holdings code or you can select all. Same with the borrower types. And depending on how many you want to return, you can get a list of popular titles. So then maybe you can find other related titles, either by the author or by, you know, similar, you know, genre that your borrowers might be interested in. And that's it. I'm going to open it up for questions.
Awesome, Faith. That was great. While we have a couple of moments for people to get some of their questions in, I would like to welcome everyone that is an attendee on this webinar to please take our quick poll. Shouldn't take too long, as it's a quick poll to give you a minute to answer one of those questions. That would be great. Also, if you're looking at the poll and you wrap up with the poll, you don't have any questions necessarily to key in for us, I would like to remind you that we do have handouts available on this webinar as well. Before we got started, my coworker, Ria, let me know that she is a huge fan of the frequently used reports handout. That was maybe her favorite of the three that we had there. Of course, the corporate brochure is great, as well as the other reports handout. But seeing what really our people are using the most, our customers are using the most, was really good. So I did want to point that out. And we do have a couple of questions coming in, so I want to go ahead and bring our attention to that. And Faith, does the OBR and in-person registered borrower statistics for location include only new borrowers, or does it include renewed cards for that month as well?
Unfortunately, it only is for new cards. For renew cards, we don't track that statistic inside the database. So it would only be new borrowers.
Okay. Faith, question number 2. Can we access this through Carl Connect?
No, because Carl uses a different database than library.solution. However, they do utilize Cognos analytics. I think a few locations do, but you would need to talk to your Carl support manager for more specifics on that.
Correct. Again, this was a webinar that was showing the reports through our library.solution platform. But again, I'm not going to parrot Faith. So that was a great answer for that question. If you are on the Carl platform and interested on the Carl platform, please do reach out to your representative who you speak to the most from Carl. They might be able to get you some more information about that. Question number 3, Faith, is there a way to see all 250 reports in one area?
Yes, on the LS2 community site under the LS2 reports documentation, there is a list of all the reports that are available on whatever version of LS you're on.
Okay, Faith and I did not coordinate that shameless plug for the community site. However, whenever many of us have the opportunity to talk about community, we always will. Community is a site dedicated for our customers that have a ton of information there, a ton of resources and documentations. As being a Carl customer, LS customer, you have access to this community site. That's something we're really happy with and proud of, and we continually build out. So that's thank you for answering that, Faith. Another question. We have an outdated link for reports. Can you send us the current link for this LS2 report generator?
That's actually going to be a support question. I won't, depending on how you're installed, you're going to have a different web address for your LS2 reports.
And I'm also thinking that may also, Faith, if I could maybe piggyback on that a little bit, I think that may also be you're showing the most recent LS2 reports module that was released with version, I'm sorry if I'm wrong here, 5.5?
So one of the reports that I showcased, which is the OBR in-person registered borrower statistic report, that is actually going to be on a upcoming release, but the reports that the other reports are based off of the release 5.6 version of library.solution.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is maybe the reason why your link may not look the same is you may possibly be on a more recent or an older version of reports, which again, that would be something for you to reach out to TLC and we could talk about what we could do to get you upgraded to the most recent version. Another question we just got, what does this period mean in LS2 reports?
This period is a setting inside of LS2 preferences regarding to your branch setup. And it's kind of like you set up when your period for the year refreshes. So it'd be like, if your fiscal year started July 1st, then it would be from, July 1st up to the run date of the report.
Okay. One of the reports suggested a count of items to consider for withdrawal from the collection. Can you get a list of those titles?
We do have a number of weeding reports, but in terms of the relative use, the activity and relative use report, that report doesn't give you suggestion of what to weed. It's just saying that you should take a look into that collection. If you have any concerns about weeding, we do have reports that show items that have no activity within a certain time period. And I can, if you create a LSN support ticket, I can kind of work with you on that on individual basis.
Okay, and speaking of that too, I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this question, so I'm going to pass that to you, Faith. Will you send us a list of the reports you went over today? I think I wrote them all down, but I'm not sure I got them all.
This webinar is available, I think, after it's concluded. So you will be able to see the slide deck, and or if you just create a support desk ticket, or email me at fgillum@tlcdelivers.com. I can send you the list of those reports.
Great answer. Another question. You mentioned running a report in the background. How do you do that?
For scheduling reports, what you can do, again, not to plug the community site and online training campus, but basically inside the properties of the report, which I can show you here real quick. So either from the directory here, these three little dots, this gives you a more option. And from here under properties, if you have the permission to do so, you can schedule the report by creating a new schedule. And then from here, you can say the frequency, what day you want it to run, the format, how you want it delivered. If it has prompts, you need to set, pre-select those prompts, and then what the how you want it sent, if you want it saved within the application or if you want it emailed to you.
Okay. I will say, I know we typically try to keep these webinars at about a half hour, but we do have some more questions we want to get through, so I will let everyone know. We are going to continue to push on through here. So if you have asked a question, I don't want you to think that we're going to cut you off because it's past 3:30 Eastern. Question: if you have a large number of items attached to one title, searching for a while, then delete some of the items as demand eases up, will the title search include the deleted item search, or will those searches go away with the deleted items?
Excellent question. So no, when you delete the items on delete the items, they are still included, and it actually says that in the footer of the report. Statistics never get deleted once they're written. So when you're running these activity reports, you will get your deleted statistics if it's on the title level or location level, etc.
All right. I'm very interested in weeding reports. Could there be a webinar on just those types of reports?
Sure. Or you can, again, like, I don't know how long of a webinar that would be, because it's only about 3 or 4 reports, but you can always, create a support ticket and ask to speak with a reports writer, which is me, and I'll happily, work with you over the phone or through the ticket and showing you what reports to run for weeding.
Faith, just for the record, everybody on this webinar just heard you answer with sure, so we're going to hold you to that. But maybe what we could do is actually tie those reports on how those reports works with some of the solutions within the software, not just running the reports on, but actually show on how you could do the deletes, how you could do the pulls and things like that. So maybe we could work on that. We'll put something together for the future for everybody on that. Another question: are the reports available now for use? Where can I get information about the most recent version, pricing, etc.? I will say, I'll jump in on this one. If you are an existing LS customer, a library.solution customer, I do want to point out that your upgrades are included in the support that you pay us as part of your support and the commitment we have for you to making sure you get the access to the most up-to-date version. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words today, but I will say if you reach out to your internal sales rep or you reach out to support and you put in an inquiry ticket as far as what it would take to get upgraded, we can go ahead and start that process for you and start taking a look at that. And I believe that might be the last question that we've received. Faith, I want to thank you very much for your time and energy that you put into this presentation. It was very much appreciated. The other thing I'd like to let everyone know is we are going to be going back into a more regular scheduled webinar series. You're going to see us doing software demos about once a week, and then maybe some panels or once a month, and then maybe some panels, discussions, other types of presentations once a month as well. So we're going to be looking at about 2 a month is what our goal is moving forward with our Webinar Wednesday series. Our next webinar is actually going to be, I believe it's April 14th. Joe from the Carl side of our house is going to be doing a demonstration on Carl Connect Staff and some of the features that you'll find in Carl Connect Staff. So do welcome everybody that is interested to see what that could look like to get registered. You can find that link at tlcdelivers.com/webinars. And hopefully I'll be a little less rusty then and won't be jumbling my words so much. But until then, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you everyone for joining. We greatly appreciate your attendance. As we move forward, everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, keep washing your hands, keep masking up, and we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you and take care.